Hi guys, before we get into this video, I want to talk about the two events that are going to be coming up at this place called Collectible Exchange. It's a Edison place that has a lot of the PS5 tournaments that has been happening recently in the sphere of Edison. So if you guys want to join an Edison tournament, there's going to be one on the 28th of on the right picture here on the 28th of October. So if you guys want to win a Switch as well as a PS5, definitely consider joining this event. Spots will be only up to 54, I believe only 54 capacity. So signups are going to be taken as soon as possible. So the only way you can contact them is to contact them through Facebook or IG, or which is Instagram. And then we have another event on GOAT. If anybody watches GOAT and also plays Edison, you probably will get in contact. You'll probably get this message before anybody else. So yeah, definitely check out this tournament for GOATs on the left side. It's going to be happening next weekend on the 22nd. Sorry, not next weekend, but the weekend after. Then you'll be able to join with GOAT formats. So if you guys like GOAT and also are an Edison enjoyer, definitely join the Nintendo Switch tournament, GOAT tournament on the 22nd of October. I got these two ads from Forrest Ent. So if you guys know who Forrest Ent is, I'll leave a description on. I'll leave the link in the description on his channel. He's the one that typically tries to promote this particular place very well. Definitely follow him if you guys have the chance to do so. All right, on to the video. Hi guys, I wanted to go over a specific card that has been into my radar thanks to a guy named Leo who got first place at Wildcard Cyclone with Black Wings. He teched only one of this in his side deck, so I was a little curious as to what the card does. And after reading it, I was thinking about what this card might have as a potential application for Edison metagaming. So I decided to make a lot of dueling book examples that I used to use when I was talking about rulings. So here, this is a card called Intercept. You can only activate this card when a monster that is tribute summon with exactly only one tribute. So a lot of the monarchs in today's metagame, especially Caius, has been pretty much running rampant in every single list, almost every single list. And so I wanted to demonstrate this card in all its utility against all of the metagaming in terms of Edison. And I also want to show you guys the math behind all of Intercept. So right now I'm looking at this printing. This is only 25 cents card, and if you guys can't afford a pulling the rug as a very staple side deck card, I would recommend buying Intercepts because they're only 25 cents now. I expect this card to go up in value over time because a lot of people in this current metagame for Edison do main deck Caius. And I'm going to demonstrate to you why Caius or pulling the rug or Intercept can be just as good as pulling the rug, if not better, in a lot of different scenarios. So I also want to point out that Intercept is actually the only one of its kind, so it hasn't been reprinted, much like pulling the rug is. So I expect this card to go up just a little bit, not too much, after this video. Intercept is one of those cards that, yeah, like pulling the rug, only has very limited printing. The pulling the rug does have the ulti version of this, whereas Intercept does not. But yeah, if you guys are very poor and still want to play IRL Edison events, definitely check out Intercept for this video. All right, yeah, I'm going to show you guys some examples now. All right, for the first example here, I'm going to show you guys the math of the Intercepts. Yeah, the Intercept counter trap. So the card here that I'm going to be demonstrating here is Sangan. So Sangan is often going to be set in, or any sort of like floater cards or recruiter cards are going to be set in Edison. So what happens if an opponent special summons a Prodigy, and then you have the Intercept set, and they tribute the Prodigy for Ariza, for example. This could be a substitute for Caius as well. So if you have the Intercept card here face down, and they target the Sangan, and you flip the Intercept, what happens here is that Ryza gets taken control of. So you even though you do technically lose the Intercept replaces itself with the Ryzas on your opponent's side. So technically you've only lost one card in this exchange. You've lost Sangan, and whereas if you had the pulling the rug, you would lose the pulling the rug, but you won't. But you get to keep your Sangan. So in this scenario, pulling the rug would be better because you would get to keep your Sangan unless you want 2400 damage. And also it would also take off the card off your opponent's side of the board. And so both pulling the rug and Intercept both take Ryza and or Caius off the board. And so this is really good as a form of like a budget option for pulling the rug because you would get to keep the Ryza with Intercept whereas with pulling the rug, you get to keep the Sangan. So in any instance here, since they tributed off the a card that doesn't replace itself in the as a part of the tribute summon, both the pulling the rug and intercept are going to be +1s, as they are able to trade with the Infernal Prodigy. So what I'm saying is they lose 2 cards. They lose the Ryza and they lose the Prodigy, and you get and then you only lose 1 card, which is Sangan, in this exchange. So that's how I can see intercept being sort of close to being a pulling the rug, mathematically speaking. And then, so if you were to have pulling the rug, for example, it would be the same, whereas they would lose Infernal Prodigy and they would lose the Ryza to your 1 pulling the rug, and you would get to keep the Sangan. So that would just be a +1 in the same example. However, the only difference is you lose the Sangan and you get to keep the Ryza with the intercept, and with pulling the rug, you lose the pulling the rug, but you get to keep you get to take out the Ryza as well as the Infernal Prodigy. So there's definitely pros and cons in the math scheme, but it's typically the same in terms of math wise, that both intercept and pulling the rug will generate a +1 if your opponent tributes a monster that doesn't gain any value from being tributed. So say here we have the exact same scenario, but would they have a Treeborn Frog instead? So if they were to use Treeborn Frog, they tribute the Treeborn Frog for Caius or Ryza. This would be exactly the same, except the only difference is if it was intercept. Let's say if it was intercept, it would just be a 1-for-1, because the Treeborn is a free tribute fodder in Frog Monarchs, and so you would get to keep the Ryza, but you would lose the Sangan, and the intercept becomes the Monarch. So that's the key difference here. The only difference is, but you lose the Sangan, so you lose the. Let's try this again. So we lose the Sangan. And then we don't lose the intercept because the intercept turns into a Ryza. So they lose their Ryza, but they don't lose their Treeborn because Treeborn is a reoccurring card. So it becomes a 1-for-1. So they really just lost the Ryza and you lost the Sangan. That's pretty much what it comes down to. With pulling the rug, it's kind of the same scenario, where if they bring out the Treeborn Frog, so if they were to tribute summon a Treeborn Frog instead of the Prodigy, and they target your Sangan, and you trade the pulling, if you activate the pulling on the Ryza, what happens is the pulling the rug would actually just trade with the Ryza, so they lose only 1, and they lost and you lose the pulling the rug. So it's exactly the same, mathematically speaking, in these two scenarios, where your opponent tributes a card for value and a card not for value, because you're always going to generate a +1. You're going to generate a +1 if they trade a card that doesn't generate a card if it's tributed. And whereas if they tribute a free card like Treeborn Frog, then it would just be a 1-for-1 with both examples, mathematically speaking. So I totally see intercept being a poor man's pulling the rug, and so it's also not a poor man's pulling the rug in a lot of other examples. So I'm going to provide you guys examples where intercept is actually better than pulling the rug. So yeah, this is the math scheme. So we're going to go into those examples right now. Before we go into the example, just pretend that sometimes a lot of people play Battle Fader. A Battle Fader is a card that ends the battle phase, but if you tribute off the Battle Fader for a Monarch, you're actually just the Battle Fader doesn't gain any value being attributed like Sangan and Treeborn Frog does, because Treeborn Frog is reoccurable. So in those scenarios, pulling the rug and intercept do the exact same thing in that scenario. So pulling the rug is just going to be, intercept is just basically the same as pulling the rug, mathematically speaking. So we're going to go into examples where intercept is actually better than pulling the rug. Okay, for this example here, we're going to have both a pulling the intercept set and a pulling the rug. So we're going to show you guys a compare and contrast between the two. So they're going to activate Treeborn Frog here. And this is an example where they're going to summon Vanity's Fiend. And Vanity's Fiend is actually going to get intercepted. And if you take a Vanity's Fiend using intercept, what happens is you've actually generated a +2. They've lost a Treeborn Frog, and they've also lost a Vanity's Fiend. The reason why they lost a Treeborn Frog in this example is because now you have Vanity's Fiend. You've lost nothing in this exchange. You flipped the intercept, and you were able to steal a Vanity's Fiend, which prevents them from special summoning Treeborn Frog. So because of this, you have apparent value, and that means that you have lost nothing, and they've lost 2 cards in this exchange. The Treeborn Frog is not going to give them any more value as a result, and you're able to shut off all of the Treeborn Frogs that come afterwards. And then if they don't have any follow-up, this Vanity's Fiend is actually going to be doing 2400 damage every turn. So this is an example where Intercept shines over Pulling the Rug. Whereas if you had Pulling the Rug set and they summon the Vanity's Fiend, the Pulling the Rug becomes a -1 because now the Pulling the Rug isn't doing anything to the Vanity's Fiend, and they can't tribute summon for a Caius afterwards unless it's going to go for game, because they can't special summon a Treeborn after the Vanity's Fiend. So the Vanity's Fiend is preventing the Treeborn Frog from coming out. So the Pulling the Rug is going to sit there forever, and you're actually getting a -1 because Pulling the Rug has no utility in this example. Whereas Intercept can steal with the Vanity's Fiend, and the Vanity's Fiend is going to subsequently lock out the Treeborn Frog from being able to be a Treeborn, or to be able to be tributed for a sacrifice, for a tribute summon. So yeah, this is an example where Vanity's Fiend is better. Okay, so I've taken the liberty of listing out some of the cards that I found on Format Library's card pool. So the Format Library has a little filter that allows me to filter between all the level 5s and all the level 6s that can be come out for 1 tribute. So I've listed all the cards here that may or may not see play. But in most scenarios here, I'll show you guys. Okay, so I've listed out these 5 cards here. So we've already seen the utility of Vanity's Fiend being stolen by Intercept, but the common cards that may be tribute summoned in EDISON metagaming is Malicious Edge. A lot of people tech in Malicious Edge with the Stratos because it's searchable by Stratos, and then it is a form of piercing, and it can be tributed summoned for only 1 tribute when if you control a monster. So the criteria is if you have a monster and they can tribute summon this for 1. Intercept can actually steal Malicious Edge in this scenario. Some people like to tribute summon for Sirocco. I see this commonly in Vayu Turbo when they flip over Raikou and then they pop a back row, and then if they tribute the Raikou for Sirocco. In this instance, you can actually intercept the Sirocco. However, I probably wouldn't side Intercept against Vayu Turbo anyways because they special summon a lot. So maybe you can, so I would not recommend siding Intercept against Vayu Turbo, even though they do play a Caius in the deck. And then these are the bottom 5 cards here that are seeing a lot less play, but I can see that being used in the future. So Spell Canceller is a card that negates all spells and their effects while it's face up on the field. So if you steal a Spell Canceller with Intercept, I can see that being a very useful thing because you can just do anything you want with the Spell Canceller on the subsequent turn. Dark Ruler Hadez is not seeing played that much, but I could definitely see it being used if you tribute summon for this guy and attacking over Recruiters and Sangan as well as Vayu and maybe even Dandelion as well. But you can definitely intercept this card, whereas Pulling the Rug doesn't do anything against these cards. Ancient Gadgetron Dragon is a card that's used in KFC or what's the other card? Mausoleum Frogs. So Mausoleum Frogs do play Gear Town. So with Gear Town says that you can tribute ancient gear monsters for 1 less tribute. So if you have this, if they have the Gear Town out and they bring out a Treeborn Frog, for example, and they tribute over the Galvatron Dragon, you can actually intercept the Galvatron Dragon, whereas Pulling the Rug doesn't do that. And that's a primary utility of that. Another utility that you use intercept over Pulling the Rug is the End of Anubis. People side this for Frog Mirrors, where if they can tribute summon for Anubis, that prevents the Treeborn Frog from activating the graveyard to special summon itself. So in this scenario, it's kind of like Vanity's Fiend, where they can just steal the End of Anubis, and then you can prevent their Treeborn Frog from coming out if you guys are playing the mirror match. And another card is Overdrive Teleporter, which is a card that's not seen very often, but you can special summon 2 level 3 psychic monsters from your deck by paying 2,000 life points. Granted, they do have priority to activate the effect on summon, but Pulling the Rug doesn't interact with Overdrive Teleporter, whereas Intercept does. So you can steal their Overdrive Teleporter. They'll have 2 level 3 psychic monsters. Most likely they won't be able to synchro summon with it, but if they do, they can probably make a Goyo Guardian and steal back, but they won't be able to steal back the Overdrive Teleporter in that instance. So these are 8 examples that I can think of. There's another card here that I didn't put on the replay, which is Gigaplant. I don't know if Gigaplant is often normal summon, but in the event that it is normal summon and they have a Supervise in hand, by activating Intercept to steal the Gigaplant, you've actually created a +2, because oftentimes when people normal summon Gigaplant, they have an Ultimate Offering or they have a Supervise in their possession. So if they have those two cards in their possession, then they won't be able to activate Ultimate Offering to normal summon the Gigaplant because their Gigaplant has been stolen. And Supervise now becomes a -1 because the Supervise has been stolen away from or the Gigaplant has been stolen away, and they can't equip the Supervise to the Gigaplant and activate the Gigaplant's effect because you've stolen it with Intercept. So those are 9 examples of where Intercept shines over pulling the rug. But granted, they are a little bit more rare as opposed to Caius, because Caius is very common. But in the examples where Caius is seeing play, or Ryza, or any Monarch, Mobius, or any Monarch, Intercept and pulling the rug does the same thing mathematically speaking. So yeah, those are examples where it's useful. So we're going to go into examples where neither pulling the rug or Intercept is good. So I'll show you guys those examples now. So a common scenario in Edison is being able to flip the Raikou and then being able to pop a card. So what Raikou and Caius do is that they often pop cards in the back row first. So by flipping Raikou, you can pop stuff like pulling the rug and Intercept. And then this is the same if they had you also had Intercept as well. If you have an Intercept set and they pop it with Raikou, they can always tribute for Caius, and then Caius will always be safe to the Intercept as well as the pulling the rug because of the Raikou Armageddon combo. Because of the Raikou Caius combo being able to be very prevalent. Most people only set one back row because Heavy Storm is in the meta. If they have Starlit Road and Solemn Judgment, great, but most of the time you're going to be setting one back row unless you're just Fearless or you have a Legacy of Yatagarasu next to your set. But in most scenarios where you only have one set, Raikou is going to be able to pop the back row, and then they can just flip they can just tribute the Raikou for the Caius, and the Caius will always get to resolve its effect, even if you have pulling the rug or Intercept. There's one more example where both Intercept and pulling the rug don't do very well against the scenario, so I'm going to show you guys the scenario next. So this is a very interesting scenario where a lot of Frog players have actually cut Unifrog from their both their main deck and their side deck. But in the event that they still keep the Unifrog in their side deck and the main deck for future metas where Intercept may or may not be used. This is a common line that they might use to dodge both pulling the rug and Intercept. So if they special summon the Treeborn Frog, and after summoning the Substitute in defense position, what they can do here is tribute summon. What they can do here is tribute summon from the Unifrog, and both in this scenario, both pulling the rug and Intercept is actually really bad because if you activate both of those cards cannot be activated to the attack of Unifrog. So Unifrog will be able to destroy both pulling the rug and Intercept. So these are two examples that I can see in the metagame or future metagames where Unifrogs can actually pop both Intercept and pulling the rug, and those cards are basically just useless against these two. These two cards are basically useless against this combo right here. All right, and then I'm going to go into examples where you might want to have pulling the rug over Intercept. So these are the examples of cards that are more targeted for pulling the rug targets better. So in this example, you can see stuff like Deep Sea Diva being able to activate its effect on normal summon. Pulling the rug is actually better in this scenario than Intercept, and I would argue that even a lot of different decks play Deep Sea Diva, so you never know what variant you're playing. But in the event that you're siding either pulling the rug or Intercept, you know what Deep Sea Diva belongs to. So if you are playing against Diva Hero Beat, you would never side deck Intercept, but you would side deck pulling the rug. Here's another example of where pulling the rug is better than Intercept. If they activate Armageddon Knight, that you can pulling the rug that card. Another card is Stratos here. Stratos is commonly used between, I believe, Diva Heroes and Diva Hero Beat. But there are other variants as well, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe like regular Hero Beat. But if they activate Stratos here, pulling the rug is better. And if you have a Dandelion Graveyard, pulling the rug is better against the debris. So those are 4 examples that where pulling the rug is better than Intercept. So let's talk about what you would normally side pulling the rug for. You can side pulling the rug for Hero Beat, Vayu Turbo for Armageddon Knight, Diva Hero because they have 3 Caiuses, as well as Armageddon Knight sometimes. And then you have a Quick Draw. Quick Draw is another deck that likes to tribute for Caius as well. But I would argue that people would often flip Raikou to pop the back row anyways in that deck, and they can just tribute for Caius. But in the event that they don't have the Raikou and they just tribute for Caius, then pulling the rug would be useful in that example. So those are 5 different decks that where pulling the rug is good. We all know how great pulling the rug is. It's sided almost against every single of these one of these matchups. So it wouldn't be odd for you to even main deck pulling the rug in a lot of cases. But this is besides the point. So if you were to side intercept, you would not side intercept against one of those 4 decks that I mentioned. Hero Beat is that deck. So because Hero Beat doesn't have any things that they don't tribute summon in that deck, whereas Diva Heroes they do tribute summon, Quick Draw they do tribute summon, Vayu Turbo they do tribute summon. Those are 3 cards that you can side against with Intercept. However, with Vayu Turbo, I probably wouldn't side the Intercept because it's very rare that they would tribute for Sirocco, and it's also very rare that they would tribute for Caius. But those are 2 cards scenarios where you can tribute for it. Whereas with pulling the rug against Vayu Turbo, you can flip pulling the rug to the Armageddon Knight, and you can also flip pulling the rug to Caius, and you can also, but you would not be able to pulling the rug the Sirocco. So either or, you would not side pulling the rug or intercept against the Vayu Turbo because there's only 2 cards out of their decks that interacts with. So yeah, so these are examples of where intercept is typically not preferred over siding pulling the rug. So next I'm going to show you some other monarchs that people play that isn't Ryza or Caius. And so yeah. So in this example here, we have a Raikou that's already been flipped, and we have pulling the rug and we have intercept. So let's go through the math here between if they were to tribute for Celestia, Kuraz, the Stalos, and Mobius. These are monarchs that are not very seeing as much play as both Caius and Ryza, but if they are seen, then you have the option. We can explore the option a little bit more here. So what happens if Raikou gets tributed for Celestia, and Celestia were to target the 2 back row here as a result, and they mill 4 as a cost? So is pulling the rug better than intercept? And in this example, it's not, because what happens is pulling the rug does protect your other back row. However, you're trading the pulling the rug for the Celestia, so it becomes a 2-for-1 where they lost the Raikou and the Celestia. Whereas with intercept, they lose the Raikou and they lose the Celestia, and you lose the set card because it was targeted by Celestia. So it's exactly the same as you would expect if you were to see this from the Caius point of view and as well as the Ryza point of view. So yeah, this is the same math, except you get to keep the Celestia. So the Celestia is a body that you can have on the board, where in scenarios where you don't have a monster to begin with, and they target a back row with Celestia or Caius or Ryza, the intercept actually generates you a body. You didn't have a body before. This is the same for the Mobius. Mobius is the same as Celestia, so you can expect the same math to play out because Mobius is going to target the 2 back rows. At the Stalos and Kuraz is going to be a little bit different. The Stalos is going to hit a card out of your hand, but you're still gonna generate a +1 if they tribute summon a monster that doesn't generate value. Granted, Raikou did generate you value because you flipped it, but if it's a monster that doesn't generate you value like Battle Fader or Infernal Prodigy, then pulling the rug and intercept does the same thing against the Stalos. However, let's say you're playing against a deck that utilizes Kuraz very well, such as KFC. If they were to use Kuraz's effect to destroy their Gear Town, pulling the rug would actually just be better because you want to prevent Kuraz from destroying cards on their side of the field, because if they destroy Gear Town, they're going to be able to special summon the Galvatron Dragon. Whereas if you had the Intercept would only steal the Kuraz, but they get to have a Galvatron Dragon, and they get to draw 2 cards. The Galvatron Dragon will be able to run over the Kuraz, and in that scenario, you would rather have pulling the rug over the Intercept. So yeah, so this is a toss-up for sure between pulling the rug and intercept. And there are more examples where pulling the rug is better than intercept. But why do we have to we don't have to compare the two and exclude one over the other? We can actually just side deck both if there's room for it. So if your deck has a really difficult matchup against Frog Monarchs, for example, Frog Monarchs is one of those decks that likes to tribute summon. With Frog Monarchs, a lot of people play Junk Synchron, so pulling the rug is better for the Junk Synchron over the Intercept. However, you don't necessarily have to side one or the other. You can actually just side You can actually side both. So if there's room in your side deck and there's room in your main deck to be sided out for both copies of Pulling the Rug as well as Intercept, then you can generate a different sort of advantage. But if you're one of the budget players that doesn't have Pulling the Rug or have access to it, you can actually just buy you can actually just buy Intercept, and Intercept will kind of generally do the same thing in a lot of scenarios. So this is going to be some of my aftermath thought. If Intercept ever becomes popular, it would actually be seen more pronounced in the mirror match between the Frog matchups. So the Frog player in the game 2 and 3, Frogs players like to side deck Vanity's Fiend against each other. In the event that they do side deck Vanity's Fiend, they also like to side deck Soul Exchange, because if they can't special summon their Treeborn Frog the next turn, they're gonna need a tribute fodder in order to to normal summon their Caius or their Vanity's Fiend. So in the example where we see the Soul Exchange come down in the mirror match, and they have a Vanity's Fiend, and they tribute summon for the Vanity's Fiend here, what happens is the Intercept is actually better than Pulling the Rug here, because one, Pulling the Rug doesn't interact with Vanity's Fiend, and the Intercept is actually going to generate them a +2, because they're able to get rid of the Soul Exchange and the Vanity's Fiend, but it also takes out the Treeborn too, because the Treeborn is unable to be special summoned. So they have the exact same board as they had before the Soul Exchange. And they don't have a monster they can attack with, and even if they did have a monster they can attack with, they lose out on their battle phase because of a Soul Exchange. So Soul Exchange into Vanity's Fiend is a very common thing in the mirror match, and so I can see Intercept being very useful in the mirror match over Pulling the Rug, where this is an example. Whereas if they had Pulling the Rug, they can only interact with it if they have Caius. So both Caius and Vanity's Fiend is targeted by Intercept, and Pulling the Rug only interacts with the Caius. So yeah, if you guys definitely want to do well in the mirror match for the Frog, I definitely recommend buying a playset of Intercept, or just 2 copies, because this is my aftermath thought. I think it's a very useful card in the mirror match. Some people actually side deck End of Anubis, as we've seen before in PS5 tournaments. There was a guy named Jasur who side decked End of Anubis for the mirror match. So if you're playing against him or anybody who side decks End of Anubis, Intercept is actually better in the mirror match to steal the End of Anubis and put it on your side, so you can lock out their Treeborn Frog. But yeah, that's all I had to say about Intercept versus Pulling the Rug. And there's also scenarios where you want to include both. So it's not typically you don't have to compare between the two. Both those cards are fine cards, and they are able to do different things depending on the situation. So definitely take it with a grain of salt if you are going to be playing EDISON, and definitely take it with some consideration as a tech that you could use for your future EDISON career. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it to be informative, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.